Welcome back to today's explainer. I am so glad you're here with us today. Healing from a painful season, it's incredibly complex. But we're now on day 12 of this after the hurt journey, and today offers us a really structured, actionable way to navigate all those heavy feelings. In this explainer, we're diving into a profoundly important concept, reframing our narrative. We're going to look closely at how we process the aftermath of those really tough seasons, and more importantly, how we can extract some actual wisdom without ever minimizing the wound itself. It's a delicate balance for sure, but the framework we're going through today makes it super accessible. Let's get right into it.
So let me ask you something. Is your pain telling you a story? Think about that for a second. When we go through something deeply hurtful, it is so easy to just assume that once the event is over, well, it's just in the past, right? But here is a vital truth we really need to unpack. A painful season might have officially ended, but the narrative it created, yeah, that might still be actively controlling you. Pain just doesn't evaporate. If we aren't paying close attention, it settles right in and starts whispering a story about who we are and what our future looks like. Which brings us to our first section, the story pain leaves, and what happens when our memories become our identity. So many of us carry around these incredibly heavy internal monologues. It's true. Unprocessed pain leaves us with very specific, often toxic narratives. It tells us a story about what we lost, keeping us hyper-focused on the deficit. But even more paralyzing than that, it tells us a story about what we can never become. Do you see how insidious that is? The pain actually morphs from a memory of something awful that happened to you into a hard, fast limit on who you are allowed to be. It quite literally shapes your identity and slaps these artificial boundaries all over your potential. And honestly, it doesn't stop there. Pain also leaves behind a story about what we should have known, what we should have done, or what we absolutely should have avoided. Man, these stories are incredibly controlling traps of guilt and regret. If your internal narrative is constantly replaying how you could have somehow prevented the hurt, you are just trapped in this endless loop of self-blame. The painful event is completely over, but this specific story, it just continues to punish you over and over again, totally controlling how you view your own judgment and your own self-worth. Let's move into our next section, acknowledging the true cost. This is all about choosing honesty over forced positivity. There is such a crucial difference between what people think healing is and what it actually requires of us. On the left side here, we see denial. Look, we are not here to force positivity. We're not about covering up real wounds with empty religious words just to sound strong or spiritual. That isn't healing at all. That's literally just slapping a bandage on an infected wound. But on the right side, we have honesty. True healing requires us to look at it and not pretend the pain didn't matter. We absolutely have to admit the true cost. We aren't going around saying everything was fine, because let's be real, it wasn't. Real recovery begins with this stark, grounded honesty. Healing does not deny what pain took from us. Some pain truly cost us time, maybe years that we literally cannot get back. Some pain cost us our confidence, leaving us second-guessing every single move we make. Some pain robbed us of our peace, replacing it with this constant hum of anxiety. And some pain cost us our trust, making it incredibly difficult to ever open up to others again. These are very real, very heavy tolls. And acknowledging them, that isn't being negative, it's just being truthful. This cost is completely all-encompassing. Pain changes how we relate to people, it changes how we see ourselves when we look in the mirror, it alters how we respond to conflict, how we're able to love others, and even how we're able to just rest at night. Trauma and hurt completely infiltrate our daily functioning. When we recognize this, we're validating our own lived experience. And it's such a necessary step. We have to actually survey the damage before we can ever start rebuilding. Now for section 3, the reframing exercise. We're going to put the cost and the growth side by side. All right, here is our core practical exercise for today. It's a really great structured cognitive reframing tool. Step 1, you choose one painful memory or season. Just pick one for now. Step 2, you write down the honest truth of what it cost you, starting with what it cost me was. And then for step 3, you ask a different kind of question to write the second sentence. One thing it grew in me was. You write those down, and you just let those two sentences sit right there side by side. What we're doing here is looking for the wisdom, the strength, the compassion, or the clarity that is actually growing from what you survived. Let's look at exactly how this works in practice. Let's see how this balances out. On the left side, we have, what it cost me was trust. That is the honest, very painful cost. But look at the right side. One thing it grew in me was discernment. Notice how one absolutely does not erase the other. The pain and the growth coexist. You lost your naive trust, yes, but you survived that and you developed a really sharp, protective discernment. You aren't minimizing the wound at all. You are just refusing to let the story end with the loss. Here is another really powerful example. What it cost me was peace. Man, that's a devastating loss. But look at the growth side. One thing it grew in me was compassion for people who are silently struggling. A deep, agonizing loss of your own peace can actually cultivate this incredibly quiet, profound empathy for others. Because you know exactly what the dark looks like, you can sit with others in their darkness. And again, we aren't doing this because the pain was somehow good or because what happened was right. No way. We're doing this strictly to extract the wisdom. Let's look at a final example just to really lock this concept in. What it cost me was confidence. But on the right, one thing it grew in me was the courage to rebuild slowly. And listen, rebuilding takes a massive amount of bravery. The entire goal of this exercise is honest wisdom, not forced positivity and definitely not denial. You are literally taking the pen back from your pain and you're writing the second half of that sentence yourself. Let's move into our final section: grace, meaning, and growth. The spiritual anchor. Let's take a look at this foundational scripture from Romans 8:28. And we know that in all things, God works for the good of those who love him. Let's just let the weight of that register for a second. It's a super famous verse, but in the context of deep hurt, it can sometimes be completely misunderstood or even misused to dismiss someone's pain. But there is a very specific, careful way we need to interpret this. The absolute crucial distinction is this. This verse does not mean everything that happened to you was good. It doesn't mean the abuse, the betrayal, or the loss was a good thing. Not at all. What it means is that God is able to work good even through things that were deeply painful, unfair, confusing, or heavy. It's all about redemption, not justification. The grace being highlighted here is that your survival is not wasted. Meaning and wisdom can actually be brought out of the absolute most painful places. You see, healing is an active exchange. We ask for help to leave behind the bitterness, the shame, the fear, and the confusion. And at the exact same time, we actively choose to carry forward the wisdom, the strength, the compassion, and the clarity. It is a conscious, daily decision to allow your story to be reframed toward growth, to carry forward the important lessons without carrying the toxic, heavy weight of the trauma itself. Which brings us to our final reflection question for today. I really want you to think about this one. What has pain taught me that I can carry forward with wisdom? Take your time with this today. Let it really sink in. Remember, we are not denying the wound, but by answering this specific question, you're actively reframing the narrative. You're stepping into a space where pain just doesn't get to have the final word anymore. Thank you so much for walking through this explainer with me today. Take this question with you, and I truly hope it sparks some deeply meaningful reflection.